the term is, I can't think of a better term of unprecedented in terms of, I don't think any of us coming in at the end of 2019 or January of this year could have ever imagined something like this, of this scale, was ever going to be possible to take place. I remember speaking with colleagues in January, February, with customers, and then, us talking about what's happening in China as if it's a China specific event. Of course, anything that happens in China does affect the globe. It affects global supply chains. But I don't even think back in February we had the depth of understanding of the magnitude of what COVID-19 would bring in terms of course, its global reach, the nature of the economic crisis, and of course, global humanitarian crisis that it has created. And for all of those reasons, I think what has come out of it is, of course, a lot of tragedy, a lot of sadness, a lot of really blatant gaps in the systems and institutions that we thought would best serve us and protect us. But what has also come out is business professionals, corporations, people and individuals, essential workers, so many people kind of stepping up, showing tremendous grace, resilience, kindness, empathy towards each other. And, hopefully that's what I'm going to take away, that many of those positives is what's going to kind of continue with us and take us forward through and out of this crisis. That's certainly what I'm hoping for. So I believe that the procurement function overall has stepped up in a very big way. They are pretty much front and center. The entire procurement, as well as the broader supply chain function, is very much at the center of this. And my experience and my personal take is, I think they have stepped up, but there's a lot more that can be done. I think a lot of exposure has come up through this crisis, where there needs to kind of be more focus, broader, broadening and eliminating supply chain risk, supplier risk, diversification of suppliers. Here in the U.S. and probably across the globe, a lot of focus on diversity businesses has come up, of course, through the Black Lives Matter movement. So I think I've seen the resilience, I've seen the agility, but I think there's more tools that are available, more focus. Now that we know something like this can happen, I think there's so much more that the entire function can do together to continue to be successful and make a huge impact on their respective companies. There's many opportunities to work very collaboratively with the supply base, to work collaboratively with new suppliers, to kind of find those innovations in a lot of different areas. If you've always kind of had suppliers single sourced in one particular geography of the world, this has completely shown us that there has to be more diversification, geographic diversification. There needs to be thinking outside of the box that maybe some companies have done before, but I think there's an opportunity to look more broadly. And of course, I think CPOs have always kind of checked with each other. I think they're excellent at benchmarking using organizations like Procurement Leaders and others. So I think that collaboration and saying, what else can we do? What else can we do to get out successfully weather this crisis through digitization? What else can the procurement function do? What else can the procurement function do in terms of social causes? And what can we do as a procurement function to support our organization to achieve its environmental, social, and other goals, so that we as companies can take a leadership role. Sometimes when the governmental institutions may not be playing that leadership role, it's incumbent on the corporations to do so. And procurement can play a very, very large role in that. I can give one example of one of our very good customers, long-term customers, Bristol Myers Squibb. I know Farron Melton is the CPO very well. And during this crisis, even though every company was affected, they took proactive steps to reach out to their diversity suppliers. Of course, GEP is one of those diversity suppliers, really to make sure that they were doing everything possible to kind of be a resource, to be available, to help with things, as simple as payment terms and other. What I saw there was just an amazing amount of leadership, grace in a time when things were very unknown for everybody. But I think corporations and the procurement function really kind of working together can come up with new ideas and really support, of course, the company goals, but also these kind of broader societal goals that we have, which is create a more fair, more just place where companies like Bristol Myers, AT&T, so many others that we know are really doing their part to support and grow diverse businesses, which is becoming all the more important in this crisis. It's very clear. And so we're very, very happy to see that leadership. We as GEP are very happy to support them in any way we can. Even in the investor community, those companies that focus on the long term generally do very well. And in the long term, we know there is no doubt that, of course, profits are important, and shareholders, of course, according to corporate governance, are a key stakeholder, if not the only stakeholder. But we know that for the long term, the customers, both businesses as well as consumers, we care. We care about what companies represent. We care about the products they sell. We care about what they're doing on the environment. So we care about these topics. We care about what they're doing in their supply chains to end child trafficking and child slavery in their supply chains. So these are the things that we care about. And so we know that although in the short term, there is this kind of bifurcation and investors looking for short-term wins and profits every single quarter on Wall Street, we know and we see those companies who succeed over the long run, their investors are happy, but so are their customers, so are their communities, so are their other stakeholders. And so for us at GEP, we very much have a very, very long-term perspective of 50 or 100 years. Hopefully there's not as many black swan events, but we know that many events will happen. But as long as we and our customers, and we are supporting our customers in helping them, not only, of course, save money, be more efficient, bring digitization, which is, of course, needed for that resilience, for that agility, but we're helping them, do it in the right way, do the right thing. They will succeed, and so will we. And so I have, again, I mentioned Bristol Myers, I mentioned AT&T. When they, came out, of course, they already have huge diversity spend. They have new goals around Black-owned businesses. Bayer, who's another very important customer of ours, they are very focused on their ESG standards. We're working very closely with them. And, what we've seen through all of this crisis is, again, if they were just focused on the really sound companies, if they're just focused on, the short term, there's so many things they can do, really hurting their supply base. But what we've actually seen for these strategic long-term companies, they're saying, how can we help you? How can we, Bayer, as you might have seen on LinkedIn, just recently gave us a Stronger Together Partnership Award for the very large transformation that we're doing. But they've been excellent partners in terms of, in a very difficult time where we're all working remotely, taking their executive leadership time to recognize suppliers and partners like GEP, who are really, they recognize are putting in their all for their success. So I believe that although, like you said, there seems to be this natural tension, and yes, there's some of those investors and certain type of investors who are looking for that short-term gain. I believe the strong long-term investors with strong companies with strong fundamentals will be able to achieve both great profits as well as great impact on the community at large, just with sound business practices, doing the right thing. And we see that in our clients and customers, and we certainly believe that and try to do that at GEP.